Welcome back. If you have been around this channel for a while, you already know that I am Sid. And I've said it openly in my past videos that while I'm not biased at all towards any smartphone, I do have a soft corner for Moto phones. Not only because they made the first smartphone I ever owned, but also because I genuinely admire what they do with their devices. The only major issue I have with Moto devices, however, and I'm pretty sure most of you too have that issue, is that their designing is pretty lackluster. So to fix that, in my hands now is the Moto M, a smartphone that fixes the designing issue of Motorola. However, in lieu of that, it ruins everything we loved about a Moto smartphone. Want to know why I just said what I said? Well then, let's start the review. Now, Moto, in my opinion, has always been a pioneer when it comes to designing. May it be those sexy flip phones or those ultra thin Razer devices, but this designing finesse never transcended into their budget and mid-range segment. Basically, a Moto G4 Plus ain't very good looking. To solve that, however, Moto has now ousted the Moto M, and this looks like a very premium device. It is made up of metal all around and it feels quite premium. In fact, it feels like a phone HTC would make. And while the smartphone isn't that slippery, it does ship with a plastic case in the box for a better grip. And one change I admire in this new designing is that the fingerprint scanner has now been shifted. From the front, it is now placed at the back. Now, I do not generally like rear-facing fingerprint scanners because they are a bit uncomfortable. However, in Moto's case, the front-facing fingerprint scanner was a bit too awkward. It did not do anything else apart from scanning the fingerprints. So I'm happy for this. Yet I feel that the bottom bezel is a bit too much compared to the top chain of the smartphone. And that makes it a bit incongruent. However, having said all that, it is a very good looking phone. It is one of the best looking phones out there for the price bracket it is being offered at. In fact, I remember this quote from Bill Gates, which goes something like this: if you can't make it good, at least make it look good. And this couldn't have been more true than this, because after this point, this smartphone will disappoint you at every step, starting with the display. The colors feel a bit washed out and the phone isn't too bright even at its highest brightness. As an example, here is the Moto G4 Plus along with Moto M at its highest brightness setting. Also, I'm disappointed that Moto did not incorporate the ambient display on the smartphone, which they call the Moto display. It is very surprising because Moto was the first smartphone to bring this feature on Android back when they launched the Moto X. And if this thing made you pinch, the next thing will make you cringe. Let's talk about this phone's software. You get Android Marshmallow with its stock look and feel, and the overall experience is quite smooth, something which is now expected from any Moto device. What however was not expected from Moto is that they would remove the extra features that they offer on their phones. I like Moto software because of two things: that apart from being stock, it also gives some extra features on their smartphones, and this is what they have removed from the Moto M. There is no Moto display, there is no Moto voice, there are no Moto actions, no chop twice to flash, no twist camera, nothing. And I do not know why they did that. Moving on, let's discuss the internals now. You get a 3GB or a 4GB RAM variant depending on the kind of device you go for. And multitasking was not an issue at all. In fact, I was impressed with it. Also, the processing is decent in daily tasks and even while casual gaming. And while I did not encounter any performance hiccups using the Helio P15 CPU from MediaTek, I do believe that this small decision did impact the other two categories we are going to discuss now because of its poor optimization. Let's first start with the camera. The phone packs in a 16 megapixel rear camera with face detection autofocus. Yet, the quality is pretty so-so. Day shots are still at par, but indoor shots turn out to be a bit noisy when the hand is still and unusable when it is not. The low light shots, simply put, are disappointing. Though the phone does have a flash, it isn't dual LED as the one you would find on a Moto G4 Plus. And turn into the front camera now. It does have more megapixels than a Moto G4 Plus, and hence the detailing is richer in idle lighting conditions. However, when you move indoors in artificial lighting, the details tend to dwindle. And one more reason I have liked Moto devices is because I like their front flashes. Moto G4 Plus is one of the few budget smartphones to have a front screen flash, While this year's Moto Z series and even last year's Moto X style are one of the few rare flagship mid-rangers which have a physical front-facing flash. The Moto M on the other hand does have a screen flash. But just like a budget Lenovo smartphone, you get to pick between two shades, pink and peach, both of which feel more funny than functional. Now the camera performance of this phone is pretty surprising because Moto G4 Plus has same set of optics barring the additional laser autofocus, and it is one of the best cameras out there under its price bracket. So maybe it is not an issue of the optics only. It might be an issue of the image sensing processor. And the second thing I blame the CPU for is poor battery life. Motos in the past have shown exemplary performance when it comes to battery life. Moto X Force, Moto Z Force, Moto X Play, Moto Z Play, even the Moto G4 Plus with a 3000 mAh of cell, they've all had good battery lives. This one on the other hand, despite having the similar battery capacity as the Moto G4 Plus, is disappointing. I had to charge my phone twice a day on an average. When my usage was very minimal, the phone cannot go beyond 3 hours of screen on time. And when my usage was average, I was getting around 2.5 hours of screen on time on average. And that is something that is very disappointing because Moto G4 Plus has pretty much the same specifications as the Moto M. And there should not be this discrepancy. I agree that Moto M does come with fast charging, but that is not a good excuse for poor battery life. Anywho, now you know my experience with the smartphone, and now it's time for me to give you my verdict on the Moto M. So, at a starting price tag of 16,000 rupees, would I recommend the Moto M to anyone? Well, of course not. There are a myriad of devices that you can buy out there. Lenovo's own Lenovo P2, Xiaomi's Redmi Note 4 is launching in India this week. Moto's own Moto G4 Plus are all superior than the Moto M in almost all regards. I won't be going on to bash the Moto M in the verdict itself because I've done that in the review previously. But if you think I've been a bit harsh on it, number one, this device cost a couple of grands more than the Moto G4 Plus, and when you pay that extra premium, I expect you to get an upgradation, not a degradation. And number two, I love Moto brand name, and it pains me to see that they have now resorted to this. It is not a smartphone that I would want to see Moto making. All I'll say is, this does not look like a smartphone that you would expect from Moto. A beauty with no brains is not what you expect from a company that once created the world's first mobile phone. Though you can expect this from the Chinese company that now owns the Moto brand name. And that is what I think of the new Moto M. Do let me know in the comment box below what you think of this phone and this review. But before that, do not forget to share this video with your friends, liking this video, and most importantly subscribing on this channel so that you can come back and see more of me. I am Sid as always. Ciao.